All right, here we go. A big show on tap, as it will be the top 5 redshirt freshman Vols. I think Nico may be mentioned. Maybe we'll pronounce his name correct. Maybe we owe Chris Fowler an apology about not pronouncing Nico's name correctly. We'll discuss that. Is the Big Ten closer to the SEC or the other conferences? Where do they fall? In other words, how much better is the SEC than the Big Ten? We would say a lot, a little, or a whole bunch. Is Chaz Lanier the next Dalton Knecht? The Vols' quiet confidence at SEC Media Days. And we'll rank Tennessee's offensive assistant coaches and get your thoughts. Speaking of, there's a poll question up right now we would love for you to take a part of. And it is this. Who is Tennessee's best assistant football coach? Now, we're going to talk about offensive coaches, but we're going to open this up to everyone because Rodney Garner, obviously, Tennessee's defensive line coach. Tim Banks, Tennessee's defensive coordinator. Glenn Eberle, Tennessee's offensive line coach. I wanted to go Kelsey Pope, but Caleb talked me into someone else. Caleb, how are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing, Dave?
Never better. I'm off and ready to go. So can you hear me okay? I know we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. How am I sounding now?
You sound great.
Okay, sound great. All right, we're up and rolling. All right, so I want to go ahead and get started, and that is today's tough question. It actually comes back from SEC Media Days, Caleb, and Laura Rutledge had something very impressive to say about the Tennessee Vols. What did she have to say, Caleb?
Sorry, I apologize. I had my mic muted by accident for a minute. Laura Rutledge was at SEC Media Days and said that she mentioned that Tennessee was noticeably confident when they showed up to the event. And she basically talked about them as one of maybe the 6 to 8 most confident schools at the event. And it's really something that stood out to me. And I think it stood out to a lot of people that they were very, very, very relaxed. And her exact quote was, one of the things that was interesting to me was the confidence that Tennessee came with. I think they're a team that could be one of the 6 or 8 that we talk about potentially contending. But Josh Heupel wasn't backing down at all. They're unproven at quarterback, but talented. I just think, and here's the big thing she said, I just think there's a lot we could be overlooking. And he made me feel I was buying what he was selling. So I would say probably Tennessee stepped up a little bit in my eyes this week.
Hey now. I got that same feeling. Did you hear Hank Kingsley there?
I heard Hank Kingsley there.
Right.
And Hank, okay. I love that.
I had that same feeling. There was a quiet confidence, and you went into that thinking it's a publicity thing with having Nico and James Pierce there. That's what we wanted. But that's not what happened. But the guys that showed up were confident and weren't going to say anything stupid. And I was very impressed. I thought there was a quiet confidence among this group. Now, nobody ever comes away from SEC Media Days saying those guys are just ready to lose. But I will say this. Billy Napier looked like he was a bit of a deer in headlights as he went through all that and was ready to face questions about his future. So you can have a different feel. I don't think you come away from SEC Media Days with a bad feel where somebody says, oh, man, they were so bad at SEC Media Days, they're going to be losers. But I think you come away with a good feel. I'll give you a weird, for instance. I knew when Hal Mummy brought Jared Lorenzen, rest his soul, that he was going to be very good. And he turned out to be very good. You don't bring a true freshman unless he's very good. When you bring Keenan Pili, that was a statement. And I'd made this statement months before that I was told Keenan Pili was one of the most respected players on the team among his teammates. Well, you make that statement by taking him to Dallas, Texas. He is. So Laura said there were things that maybe she didn't know. Let me give you a couple. Nico is all that. And she can't be sure of that. She covers hundreds of teams or 100 teams. She doesn't know that about Tennessee. Keenan Pili is that well respected, and Cooper Mays changes Tennessee's record last year. She may not know all of that. We do. That's why they should have been confident, Caleb, and they were, and I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and the one thing that we noticed is Josh Heupel is very high on how much better his defensive backs are this year. Very high on that. And that's why I told you guys last week. He said that they were the deepest that they've ever been when asked specifically about his defensive backs. Heupel didn't bring Nico because I feel like he's trying to, and you're right, it was a quiet confidence. I think Heupel is trying to keep under wraps just how confident he is, but it really oozed through, didn't it? With everything he was doing. It was very opposite of, for a quick history lesson, in 2012, Derek Dooley at SEC Media Days said, you're not going to have Tennessee to kick around anymore, and Tyler Brady guaranteed an SEC championship that year. Now, that team was better than the previous Tennessee teams, but you did feel like Derek Dooley kind of had to make a statement to excite the fan base because he was a little bit worried about what could happen. I don't think Josh Heupel feels like he has to do that at all. I think he knows he's going to excite the fan base with what happens and how things play out this year. And I'm with you. Heupel's always been cagey, but he's just given off the vibe that this is the best he's felt about the program since he's been at Tennessee. Doesn't he give off that vibe?
Yes. Well, he doesn't give off that vibe. He said it. He said, this is the deepest, best team that I've had since I've showed up at Tennessee. And when you say that, you are raising expectations, Caleb. And he's not afraid to do that. And he's typically a guy that plays it pretty close to the vest. So the poll question is, I thought Rodney Garner ran away with that. I'm not incredibly surprised. 66% of the vote, 22% goes to Tim Bakes, Tennessee's defense coordinator. Glenn Ellerby didn't get a vote. He should, with what he did with Darnell Wright and what he's done with this offensive line. And then Kelsey Pope would be the other one that I mentioned, that I would mention as someone else. I mean, nobody else on this group, among this group, has coached a player to win the ultimate award at their position. Kelsey Pope has. Jalen Hyatt is a Blitnikoff winner. I hate even leaving him off this list. We went with someone else, so I'm going to give that 11% to Kelsey Pope because I think because he's young, he doesn't get enough credit. I like Kelsey Pope a lot.
Yeah, no, I'm a huge fan of Kelsey Pope. I like Kelsey Pope a lot. I'll definitely get into it when we start talking about the Tennessee assistants. I wanted to get back to Tennessee's confidence though, heading into this year. Do you think what position group do you think leads Heupel to be the most confident for Tennessee?
Leads Heupel or is the most confident? Let me make sure.
Well, okay, put it this way. What position group is the reason Heupel's more confident this year about Tennessee than he was ever in any other year going into this year?
Okay, one. Can I pick two?
Yeah, sure.
I think one is incredibly well-founded but scary. And that's the offensive line because I think the depth is an issue. I think his starting five, if you told him right now that the starting five are going to be 100% healthy throughout the year, and they're not. Nobody is. No offensive line is. Okay, so it's not going to happen. But if you told him they'll be 100% healthy all year, I think he would say Tennessee will be in the national championship game.
That's bold.
I know.
Even though I'm saying it too. So you know.
I believe that, but I don't believe they'll be healthy all year. So it's kind of a moot point, as they like to say in Mascot, Tennessee. So the other, I think it's largely unfounded and unproven, is the secondary. He talked about the depth of the secondary and they retooled the whole thing. And I think he thinks the defensive front is going to apply enough pressure where you don't have to guard guys longer than 2.5 seconds. I think he's incredibly confident in the secondary, be it right or wrong. That's the feel I get because, listen, if you thought that the secondary was as bad as it's been the past 3 years and you're confident going to SEC Media Days, then I got bad news for you. That's false confidence.
Yes, that's absolutely false confidence. No, I think he thinks the secondary I think he thinks it's competent for the first time since he's been here. And, I mean, Heupel's been very open about this. He's like, look at where we took the most attrition when we took over for Jimmy Pruitt. He basically constantly says the secondary. That's where a lot of the transfers were. and that's where they took the biggest hit, and that's what it's been so hardest to get back up to snuff. I'm with you. So I get your point about the offensive line. I think it is the secondary. I think it's the secondary being up to snuff. And I think it's him once again actually having a quarterback who fits what he wants to do, because I think he does know in his heart of hearts, and he's a loyal guy. I do think Heupel's an honest guy. He's not a snake. He knows he dropped the ball going after Joe Milton, though. He knows he dropped the ball.
I think he probably did. I think he probably did. Travis says Laura Rutledge is pretty nice looking. You don't see her in person. Not bad at all.
Hey, Laura.
Yeah, call me. Give me a shout.
I'm kidding. I'm married, but
right. I am too. Stunning in person, by the way. Our new poll question is a little off topic, but we want your votes. Your fave, Laura Rutledge or prime Erin Andrews? How about that? Let me ask you this. How much of the confidence comes from the fact that Tennessee's players believe what I believe, that Nico will be an improvement over Joe Milton at quarterback? Even though it's the first year as a starter, this all revolves around the quarterback. If the engine ain't running, this car's not going. And it wasn't running at times last year. So you asked me for the position, I would have to say it's also the maturity. You know that Nico's going to make some mistakes, like Chris Fowler saying his name, which we think may be AI, either way. But I believe that they know he can keep the ship going in the right direction and even speed it up a little bit towards a potential championship. So I think if they had, oh goodness, who's the backup quarterback? Not Merklinger, the other kid. I'm sorry.
Gaston Moore?
Yeah, Gaston Moore. If they only had Gaston Moore and Gaston Moore was running out there being a starter, I don't think they would have nearly as much confidence. Nearly as much. No offense to Gaston.
I think that's fair. I mean, Nico's a huge part of this. That's why I said Nico versus, Nico, and we both agree on the secondary. I agree with you. Just, I think the confidence in Nico outweighs the confidence in the offensive line, because again, I've said this before. I'll say it again. I'm going to repeat it until you guys see it regularly. Nico was created in a lab for Josh Heupel's system. And that you don't always get it is very rare when a coach who runs a specific, unique system finds a quarterback designed in a lab to run it. And the only ones I've always said are Tommy Frazier was created in a lab to run the triple option for Tom Osborne. Tim Tebow was created in a lab to run Urban Meyer's spread offense. Cam Newton was created in a lab to run Gus Malzahn's offense. And Johnny Manziel was created in a lab to run Kevin Sumlin and Cliff Kingsbury's air raid. Nico was created. Now, to be fair, you disagree. Some people say Danny Wolfer was created in a lab to run Steve Spurrier's offense. I know you feel that anybody could have run that offense.
Well, I think with Werfel, it's the guts. You got to be willing just to get smacked around a lot. And if you're willing to, that is a trait, but
it's not a unique trait.
Right. When I was 19, I could throw the football as far as Danny Werfel. Come on. It's not, there was nothing special going on there. That his 45-yard passes were moon balls, chucking it as hard as he could, just leaning into it to get it to go 45 yards. Yes, Laura is a babe. Chris Fowler and EA Sports are on record lying. What? Okay, no, I meant to go to that. If Milton played in the bowl game, what would have been the outcome? The outcome would have been pretty similar. Tennessee was a lot better than Iowa. I think Joe Milton would have been fine. It would have, the one biggest change is all the excitement about this season. I think it would have taken some of it away.
No, absolutely it would have. Do you think if Milton had played, though, did you get the vibe when Milton started last year that he kind of got frustrated when the home run wasn't there, because Hendon Hooker had all those home run balls the year before and he kept trying to get that one for him in quite a few plays? And I feel like the Iowa game, he would have gone for that. Nico never went for that. In Iowa, he said, okay, you guys want to play this 4-2-5 bear coverage? I will pick a freshman, a true freshman said, I will pick you apart underneath the whole way down the field then.
I may have just had a paradigm shift on Joe Milton. I think I did. I think it's contact. First, let me tell you about Rick Terry's great Garmin challenge. Get ready for Rick's Grade 8 Garmin Challenge, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design. You can see his pieces just above my shoulder. They have the cufflinks with the Power T. They have the State of Tennessee necklace. They have those fire opals, which are awesome. You can always get those at rickterryjewelry.com and stop by his location on Kingston Pike. But here's the new deal, and this is pretty awesome. You can win a Garmin watch. That's right, a Garmin watch. Here are the only two things that you have to do. Is you have to be subscribed to the station, okay, which a lot of you are, but please hit like and subscribe now. And the only other thing you have to do is join Hooker's Corner. Now, you can be a free member on Hooker's Corner. You won't be eligible for the other prizes, but you can join Hooker's Corner. Right there is your QR code if you're a member of both. When we hit 8,000 subscribers, that's why it's the Grade 8 Challenge, then we are going to give away a Garmin watch worth over $1,000. So be sure that you're signed up on Hooker's Corner. You want to be signed up on Hooker's Corner and that you have subscribed right here. I do remind you that the program is represented by Banks & Jones, as T. Scott Jones will visit with us later in the show to discuss how serious this LSU situation is with the video voyeurism. It's kind of creepy. And is Chaz Lanier the next Dalton Knecht with Caleb Calhoun? I'm Dave Hooker. Hit that like and subscribe button. Again, the Rick's Grade 8 Garmin Challenge, brought to you by Rick Terry Jewelry Design, ongoing. You need to be a part of that. 60 seconds. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? Banks & Jones, T. Scott Jones, banksandjones.com.
Today's tough question. Take a side. Take a stand. The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Today's tough question is this: is Chaz Lanier the next Dalton Knecht? We had an opportunity to see him at practice. He visited with the media. That's asking an awful lot. Is Chaz Lanier the next Dalton Knecht? That's the question I have for you, Caleb Calhoun. Your thoughts?
No, he's not the next Dalton Knecht. Dalton Knecht, Dave will disagree with me, guys, on this, but I will say it up front. He is a dime a dozen in Rick Barnes' new system. But Chaz Lanier is not the next Dalton Knecht. Chaz Lanier is to Tennessee what Emmitt Smith was to the early 90s Cowboys. And in case you guys don't remember, Jerry Jones, and when Emmitt were in the contract negotiations, what did Jerry Jones say? Emmitt Smith is not a necessity, he's a luxury. Chaz Lanier is a luxury. Now, to be fair to Chaz Lanier on that, the whole backcourt is a luxury because there's so many of them now. When you have Darling Stone-Dubar, who is a wing but scores from the backcourt, and you have Cameron Carr, who, by the way, the coaches fell in love with so hard last year. That's why Freddie DeLeon and BJ Edwards entered the transfer portal to begin with. This team is so loaded that all of these players are luxuries at this point. And because of that, yes, Chaz Lanier is a luxury. Dalton Knecht was not a luxury last year. Dalton Knecht was a necessity.
Okay, you're half right. Dalton Knecht was a necessity last year, but there's no way Chaz Lanier is a luxury. That being said, I was as impressed with the trio of incoming guys as I was by Lanier by himself. So you've got three guys, Caleb, and for those, give me backstories on Carr and the big stretch four who's going to shoot outside. I liked him a lot in practice, and I think that actually Tennessee is better with this trio than just Dalton Knecht. But to have another Dalton Knecht would be like lightning striking twice. Corey says, hopefully he's better than DK. Just saying. Hopefully he is. It's great. It's great for our ratings. It's great for everything here at Off the Hook Sports. But the odds are, we were talking about Dalton Knecht being one of the best, maybe the best player of all time in Tennessee, at least back to Bernard King. So the chances of getting that are slim and none.
So it is the quad of transfers more than it is the trio of transfers. Because remember, there's 4 transfers and Felix Opara counts, but the trio is the backcourt of Cameron Carr, Darling Stone-Dubar, and Chaz Lanier. All of them are going to be major backcourt scorers. I also forgot that DJ Jefferson was also sent into the transfer portal with the way he played as an outgoing because of Cameron Carr's development. So Darling Stone-Dubar, Chaz Lanier, and returning player Cameron Carr as that trio is certainly more valuable than Dalton Knecht. And Darling Stone-Dubar is the guy who I think could actually replace Dalton Knecht. He could. They're both wing scorers, and Dubar is taller, more athletic, and as far as we know, as good of a shooter. Now, when you add the interior of Igor Milicic Jr. and Felix Opara, the 2 transfers, you're all of a sudden talking about, with Igor Milicic, another player who can stretch the floor, doing it from the post. And then Felix Opara is just, I mean, it's basically you traded Jonas Adu for Felix Opara, and my guess is you got somebody who's a lot more tough, or a lot tougher.
Let me ask you this, Caleb. Would you take these 4 incoming guys or Dalton Knecht and 3 dudes? And by 3 dudes, I mean guys that are competent basketball players, but you're not going to look at them and say at any point, well, it's a special play. He might be special. Think about that for a second while I tell you about our good friends at Work Trucks. Man, Work Trucks is if you're a contractor, you have to know Work Trucks with an X. They're all about trucks that actually are available. You can't find them nowadays. Trucks that help you maximize your profits by having the work vehicle that you need. Time is money. WorkTrucksLLC.com, the perfect work vehicle. Doesn't break down and has all the space to carry what you need. That's what Work Trucks is intent on offering, while at the same time, they know dealerships can't do it. No back and forth trips to get your tools. Work Trucks has it all with Knapheide work bodies installed. Pickup trucks of all sizes. They've got crane and dump trucks as well. Work Trucks is on Clinton Highway in Knoxville and downtown Birmingham. You need Work Trucks if you're a contractor. Work Trucks will make sure you have the perfect vehicle you have to have. They find the perfect truck, outfit it, and make sure it fits your needs to a T. Work Trucks with an X, LLC.com. Work Trucks. Proud supporter of the Vols. I believe that I'd rather have these 4 guys than Dalton and 3 dudes. And by dudes, I mean they're horrible, but Travis says, kind of like our team last year, DK, 3 competent players, and Zach Zeeler. Yeah, so maybe I'm repeating what they had last year, but last year got to the Elite 8. If I could have one more year out of Dalton Knecht, I would take that and almost forego the other 3 scholarships, but I got to have the bodies.
This isn't even close. It's these 4 guys over Dalton Knecht. One, I keep telling you, Darling Stone-Dubar could be as good as Dalton Knecht. So what you're saying is Dalton Knecht and 3 dudes, or somebody as good as Dalton Knecht and these other 3 guys, okay?
That's
now,
crazy.
He's not going to be as good as Dalton Knecht.
You guys are overlooking the fact that this is Dalton Knecht's emergence is a part of the new era of college basketball that benefits Rick Barnes directly. Because finally, these older veteran players who have a year left on their of eligibility, who are very talented, who have really developed and hit growth spurts in college basketball at the lower levels, can now transfer to a larger school and be developed like Rick Barnes, by a guy like Rick Barnes. What's really held players back for so long in basketball is no more than any other sport, the NBA drafts on potential, raw potential. And a lot of that potential is scouted out of high school. But as you know, Dave, a lot of players hit growth spurts in college. That's very common for athletes. Well, not very common, but it's not uncommon. It happens. Okay.
No, and I think to a man, everybody thought that Chaz Lanier was a little bit taller. They thought the same thing of Carr. I didn't hear that of any of the other 2 guys, but you're right. People hit growth spurts, especially basketball players, all the time.
Yes, exactly. They hit growth spurts. Now this era allows seasoned veterans who have hit growth spurts to be quality Power 5 players when they were barely Division 1 players coming out of high school to transfer to a school to make their name known. And they are more mature, so they will look for a coach like Rick Barnes, whose system is conducive to mature players who want to develop, and they will shine. This will happen all the time. I'm telling you, if Rick Barnes were coaching in the 80s and the transfer portal were around, Scottie Pippen would have been the most coveted transfer for Rick Barnes at the end, going into his senior year. Because don't forget what happened with Scottie Pippen. He was at Central Arkansas. He was the manager of the team, and he grew 6 inches, but he had all his point guard skills, and that's why he was so good and ended up getting drafted. In today's game, Scottie Pippen would immediately go to a Power 5 school, wouldn't he, in his last year because of that?
So who's that guy out of this group? Is it Carr that they think is going to make another major?
No, Carr's been in the program. Carr's been in the program, so it's not Carr.
But who do they think is going to make a major jump? Who has to fill it up against Auburn? I'm not talking about just the incoming guys, but who has to fill it up against Auburn when you're in the fourth quarter and you're struggling?
I mean, that's where I do think it's a collective, but the overall statute, like, not just points, but PER, points, rebounds, assists, the combination of all of them, I think Darlington Dubar is that guy. I've been high on him from the start. So
you're really high on Darlington Dubar.
Look at his numbers. They're insane. He is 2 inches taller than Dalton Knecht. He's more athletic than Dalton Knecht. And I'm not just saying that because Dalton Knecht was white and Darlington Dubar is black. Okay, guys, I actually did look at highlights of Darlington Dubar. He is more athletic than Dalton Knecht. He's grown 2 inches since last year. Okay, he averages more rebounds. The guy shot 40% from 3 last year, and he's grown 2 inches. He's maintained his ability. I'm telling you, this guy is going to be deadly. He's going to be a deadly scorer for Tennessee.
All right. I think most people are more excited about Lanier, but Caleb's been out on an island before. That's not new, and he's been right a lot. So we'll roll with that. Portions of the program brought to you by Don Self. Customer service still matters. For over 40 years, Don Self has built their business on taking care of their customers. Greater Chattanooga area, call 423-396-2126. Please do that right now, 423-396-2126 or donself.net. Remember, everybody wants to save money, but what happens when you want to make that claim? donself.net, donself.net. Tell them Off the Hook Sports sent you. Same for all of our sponsors. I say this over and over, and it's so true. And I'm so blessed to be in this position because there are so many people in broadcast that are telling you this product is awesome when it's probably not. And in this particular case, we have personal relationships with all of our advertisers, and I can tell you, you need to use them because we've either used their services or we would if we needed them. And at one point, I will need Medicare Misty. And I tell you what, she's free.
19 years this year. I've been in the community since 1993. You're getting a lot of information. Unlike when you were working, they made the choice for you. Now you have to make the choice. Come to us and let us help you make it easy. Call Medicare Misty, MedicareMisty.com or 423-777-5577. Let us help them sleep at night.
And we call her Medicare Misty.
Yeah, no cost for Medicare Misty. Get your Medicare squared away for you or your loved ones. 4 Downs is now.
4 downs. 4 questions. 4 answers. The Dave Hooker Show.
4
Downs. A presentation of offthehooksports.com.
Alrighty, how about we rank some assistant coaches? But what we're going to do is we're going to rank them both on the offensive and defensive side. Who are the coaching MVPs as we do that right now? Cooper Mays is nice enough to always get us started. What should people do, Coop?
Cooper Mays here. Hit like and subscribe.
Thanks, Coop. What down?
Coop here. First down.
Josh Heupel doesn't count, okay? Tennessee's best offensive coach is
Glenn Ellerby. Easily Glenn Ellerby, right?
no. It's Kelsey Pope. I wanted him on the poll. I acquiesced to your request of having other instead of Kelsey Pope. But if I had to hire somebody right now off the offensive staff, it would be Kelsey Pope. Age would be a factor. I think Kelsey Pope is learning this offense better than anybody on that staff and better than anybody that's been around Josh Heupel other than Alex Golish. I think Kelsey Pope is going to be a very successful head coach one day.
So I love Kelsey Pope, and I'm actually as high on him as you are. I had Glenn Ellerbe because of his experience, but the other thing I had is that, Dave, good offensive line coaches are very, very hard to find.
That
They're very, very
you
hard
got
to
me.
find.
You got me on that. You got
Like-
me on that. I mean, it's and especially one that fits your style.
Yes.
Because teaching teaching blocking isn't just teaching blocking. There are different styles of blocking that would go with an option or a veer or a pro style or even a run and shoot. So I will give you that. You got me there. It is a tougher position to find.
And here's the it's the most underrated story of the 98 season. And I don't know if you remember it, Dave, but Philip Fulmer went and got Mike Berry to coach the offensive line that all season. Remember that? Going into the year. And do you remember how much better the line was against Florida that year than they were the year before?
Oh, yeah. Mike Berry's a great coach. Mike Berry and Doug Marrone. Doug Marrone ended up being an NFL head coach.
And when Doug Marrone was at Tennessee, Travis Stevens set the record for rushing yards in a season, didn't he?
You know what they both figured out real quick?
What?
The head coach, when he's a former offensive line coach, is going to be looking over your shoulder at all times, and it ain't no fun.
I believe that.
I mean, that's even when you're doing a good job. By the way, Mike Berry, since you brought him up, the one coach that got physical with me at one point.
He would, and I could see that, but tell me the story now.
Let's get the second down first.
Cooper Mays here. Second down.
I'll tell you. Best defensive coach.
You know, it seems obvious. Okay, I'll go obvious. I'm not going to be avant-garde. It's Rodney Garner, but I want to say Tim Binks because I have such high regard for what Tim Binks does.
I do too. I like what he puts together, and I'm not being avant-garde. I don't even know what that means, but I'm not being difficult just for being difficult's sake, and I'm not just being devil's advocate. I think Tim Binks also. My two favorite assistants on this staff are Tim Binks and Kelsey Pope. So that's where I stand in the whole kit and caboodle. Ask you third down, 4 downs today, brought to you by our friends at the Hemp House, the premier hemp dispensary online with a wide variety, great selection, and strict standards to ensure you only receive the best in CBD or Delta products. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Hemp House Chat with 2Ts.com. Use the promo code HOOK for 10% off. What down is it, Coop?
Tennessee center Cooper Mays here. Third down.
I kind of answered my own question with this a little bit, but brightest future long term is.
That's easy. You are right. It's Kelsey Pope. Kelsey Pope is this is where I will repeat everything you just said. He's a rising star in the game, and he's going to be an amazing. The guy is head coaching material. You're right. He understands the offense. And guys, I want to give you guys Kelsey Pope's resume real quick. He was the off-field analyst under Cody Burns his first year at Tennessee at 25. Josh Heupel basically made him responsible for Cedric Tillman. He said, develop Cedric Tillman. And he turned Cedric Tillman into a 1,000-yard receiver. The next year, he promotes Kelsey Pope to receivers coach, and Kelsey Pope turns Jalen Hyatt into a Biletnikoff winner. It's Kelsey Pope.
Derek says we're sleeping on the guy from Washington, the new linebackers coach. So we're getting references to the new coaches, and we're
not sleeping on him. I like him.
We're not sleeping on them at all. That being said, in all fairness, we have a better feel for the coaches that have been around Knoxville for a while, correct?
Correct. And again, William Ing is a very good assistant coach long term. You just brought it up. Kelsey Pope is head coach material. Kelsey Pope is what, if Philip Fulmer didn't slow walk it, what Trooper Taylor would have become. Because Trooper Taylor was head coach material too, back in the day.
There's no question in my mind. If he wants to be a head coach, he can be a head coach. I think he's got family man in him, and there's nothing wrong with that whatsoever. So we have 4th down before I get to my story about coach getting physical with me.
I'd love to hear your story about.
Are you excited about that one?
Mike Berry strikes you as someone who would get physical with a hooker. I'm
All SEC center Cooper Mays here. 4th down.
Coop's Ball Report brought to you by City Heating and Air Conditioning coming up later in this week. He's a first-team All-American, so I'm excited to ask him about that. Okay, tough time. The one coach that Tennessee could easily afford to lose would be
Oh my gosh, this is the easiest one possible. He's Joey Halzle.
I know, and we're just ripping on the guy, and he's only had a year on the job. But am I wrong, people?
Look, I think people ripped Joey Halzle too much for last year. It wasn't the change in offensive coordinators as much as it was the change in quarterbacks. However, Joey Halzle is a very replaceable assistant coach. I mean, we're talking about a guy who it's Josh Heupel's offense, one, and two, red flag after red flag. Joey Halzle was an Heupel assistant, off-field assistant for like 10 years before he got promoted to an on-field role. That says something. It's similar to how John Chavis was a defensive coordinator for how many years and never got a head coaching offer, or Brent Venables. The reason we don't believe in Brent Venables, when a defensive coordinator is a coordinator that long and never even gets an offer, that's a red flag. See, Kirby Smart actually got offers. He was just smart, no pun intended, and didn't want to take jobs at bad programs. Brent Venables never got an offer. Joey Halzle never got an offer to be promoted to the point where he actually left coaching and went to the private sector for a minute and then came back.
Guys, I can't tell you how many times that Caleb says something that catches my ear and we end up completely changing gears on what we were going to do. You want that if you're Josh Heupel at the table. You want somebody that is going to bring new ideas to the table and is going to challenge you. The problem I had with Joey Halzle from the get is his lack of experience, which I know worked with Kelsey Pope, but this is a position. This is a coordinator position, not a position coach position. So that was the issue I had. And I don't know what he's bringing to the table that he already hasn't learned from Josh Heupel. And it's not a knock on him whatsoever. I just think he could have used a little bit more seasoning. I think Alex Golish had the wherewithal and the weight in the room to say, whoa, Josh, that ain't going to work. That's not what you need to do. Do you think Joey Halzle has that gravitas?
No. And Alex Golish brought a totally different perspective. And this is where Heupel was smart to bring him on. Alex Golish had spent years at Illinois and Toledo and Iowa State with Matt Campbell. And he coached within physical offensive systems. So he was kind of he was the perfect complement to what Heupel wanted. Before Alex Golish, Heupel's offensive coordinator was Jeff Lebby, who was developed in the Art Briles, Kendall Briles system, which we really don't talk about how cutting edge the Art Briles system is. Whatever you think of Art Briles, a human, okay, that system was so far ahead of the curve. And really, he got fired before anybody figured it out, quite honestly. And Josh Heupel brought in Jeff Lebby. When Lebby worked under Heupel, Heupel learned as much from Lebby offensively to develop his offense as Lebby did from Heupel. So Heupel, and now Lebby's a head coach at Mississippi State, and Golish is a head coach at South Florida. Does anybody think Joey Halzle is going to be a head coach somewhere within the next 5 years? Because I don't.
If I had to pick, I would say, yeah. Okay, let's run them down real quick. I don't think Garner or Ellerby want to be head coaches. Fair. I'm not going to pretend to know the two new coaches. I think Kelsey Pope will be a head coach within 5 years. I think Tim Banks will be a head coach within 5 years. No, I can't see that happening to Joey Halzle. I can't.
If Nico's not what Nico should be this year, and what we're saying Nico should be, Halzle's going to be the guy you see scapegoated. And I won't even say it's wrong. The same way Heupel was scapegoated by Bob Stoops in 2014, although it would actually be it may be well deserved with Halzle. But we'll have to see. The thing that I will say is that if you have the right system, yes men to run it can work out. Let's be fair, Dave. Jeremy Pruitt was a yes man for Nick Saban as his defensive coordinator, wasn't he?
Yes, but they thought alike too. So it's not like he sold his integrity, even though he didn't have much.
Right. Yeah. But what I don't
understand, like you and I agree 90% of the time.
Well, right. But that I guess that's where I met. Jeremy Pruitt developed under Nick Saban. He learned everything under Nick Saban. So when he was promoted, he was just a little mini, I'm going to copycat what Saban wants me to do. Whereas Kirby Smart even though Kirby Smart was developed under Nick Saban, I feel like Kirby Smart developed his own ideas about coaching defense, didn't he? And he developed his own complexities and things like that. Whereas Jeremy Pruitt just learned what Saban wanted.
It's funny how our message board is just all over the place. And, we didn't mention Willie Martinez, but Willie Martinez, I think, is still undecided. I don't really know how good Willie Martinez is because I don't think he's had great
Guys,
things.
Willie Martinez scout. Sorry, you want to finish your point? Willie Martinez scouts talent better than you guys give him credit for on the message boards. I just want to point that out. He actually scouts. He's not like the best recruiter, and there are questions about his ability to on-field coach. But look, I think Willie Martinez has been coaching with one hand tied behind his back for the past 3 years because there was no position group that was wrecked more from Pruitt's departure than the secondary.
I feel like there are times you can see that in his face at times, that he's just like the guy who's going to work and he's got just limitations on what he's able to do. So I want to go to the message board because you're really all over the place. And then I'm going to reset the poll question. Hang tight with me. Give me 15 seconds. And I want to tell you a little something about Ray Varner Ford and Clinton.
Per cab 4x4 STX, $45,985. 24 Ford Escape, $30,962. 24 Ford Maverick XLT, $32,720. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
So we've got everything from this to the message board to I'm wondering if Halsley isn't just Heupel's yes man. You're crazy, Dave. It's okay. Now, G White 713. Great question. Okay, if not Halsley, who would you replace him with? Not that we want him gone, unless. Okay. My answer to that question is you don't want him gone. My answer to the yes man comment is he may be. And that's perfectly fine because Josh Heupel is going to run this offense. If you had to have one weakness on the staff, you'd want it to be offensive coordinator, I believe. Now, Caleb said it. If Nico doesn't play well this year, okay, then it's not a Joe Milton thing. Then you've got to be concerned about the top. Injuries, major injuries to the offensive line aside, yes, that should be the determining factor. And then suddenly, if Nico has a Hooker-like year in 2022, then you might be talking about him being a head coaching candidate one day at a smaller school. But does he get any sort of job like South Florida? Not for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years.
Yeah, I don't think so. Because, by the way, guys, coaches talk. So it would take a long time for Halsley to get the job because people would know. Why do you think people were hesitant with Smart and Jeremy Pruitt for such a long time? They felt it was Nick Saban's defense. When Randy Sanders was Tennessee's offensive coordinator, he never got an offer as a head coach, did he? Not once. And I think people just felt that, and you can give some insight on this, but didn't people feel that Randy Sanders was just running what Fulmer wanted him to run when he was offensive coordinator there?
Yes. Absolutely.
Whereas Fulmer would turn the keys over.
The Dave Clawson thing was determined not to work because he wanted to see that. So it's Josh Heupel is not going to hire some coach that comes in here and wants to run the triple option.
No, but Josh Heupel will hire coaches that break from him and he can listen to, and that's where the difference in coordinators are noticeable. What I'm saying is the difference between David Cutcliffe and Randy Sanders. Philip Fulmer listened to David Cutcliffe, right? If Philip Fulmer and David Cutcliffe are in a room and David Cutcliffe says, we got to do this, Fulmer's like, he backs down. But if he and Randy Sanders are in a room and Randy Sanders says something he disagrees with, Fulmer made sure he won out on those. Am I gauging that right?
No, I can roll with that. I can agree with all that. Want to remind you that our friends at Quality Tire Pros, there's the QR code. If you're on our video platform, the Eberle family has been serving Chattanooga's community since 1957. All major brands of tires, full service, automotive, brake alignments, oil changes, and more. All work covered by a nationwide warranty. That's Cherokee Blvd or online, qualitytirepros.com, qualitytirepros.com. We are going to rank Tennessee's assistant coaches and their 5 redshirt. I'm sorry, we got the 5 redshirt freshmen balls coming up. Number 1 is going to be Nico. I'm going to go ahead and steal that from you if I may, Caleb. But who will be number 2, 3, 4, and 5? They're important. Why? Because how many times have we seen second-year guys, be it sophomores or redshirt freshmen, hit that major jump because they've been in the college weight room conditioning program, and for many, the buffet that is what Tennessee is given each and every day. Includes shrimp, pasta and steak and all kinds of stuff. So Tennessee's top 5 redshirt freshmen after this. Stay tuned. The show represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. He's Caleb Calhoun. I am Dave Hooker.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that. If we wouldn't put our family in it, we're not going to put their family in it. If you're going to say that you're doing the best work in Knoxville, now saying it's one thing, producing it and providing it's another.
The largest family-owned collision center in Knoxville is Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Hi, I'm Rick Terry, and we at Rick Terry Jewelry Designs pride ourselves in the highest quality craftsmanship from a family-owned business here in Knoxville for over 35 years. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we also take pride in being an affordable option for all your game day accessories, especially those fire opals. At Rick Terry Jewelry Designs, we want to be your jeweler every day and especially on game day. Go Vols!
Hi, Mike Davis here with City Heating and Air, reminding you to always dare to compare. Our team provides quality local heating and air service, installation, and maintenance across East Tennessee. We use only the best equipment like American Standard heating and air conditioning for your residential, new construction, or commercial needs. Honesty, dependability, and customer satisfaction have been the cornerstones of our business since 1961. City Heat and Air.
There's your pair.
23 F-150 Super Cab 4x4 STX, $45,985. 24 Ford Escape, $30,962. 24 Ford Maverick XLT, $32,720. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Welcome back. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker, Off the Hook Sports, represented by Banks and Jones.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks and Jones, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Way to win, banksjones.com.
Who's this guy?
Hello, wizard.
The Dave Hooker Show,
Ooh.
a presentation of Off the Hook Sports,
What?
YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the free Off the Hook Sports app. Back to Dave Hooker.
Who are the second-year players that are going to step up for the Vols? Caleb, if you want to start a poll question on that, you can throw that up there. That'll give me an opportunity to tell people that we want you to join Hooker's Corner. Why? Because it's your opportunity to win fantastic prizes for free. You can be a part of Rick Terry's Great Garmin Challenge. You can win a Garmin just by being subscribed and having a free membership to Hooker's Corner. The QR code is there for our video listeners or watchers, viewers, and also want to remind you that you can win monthly prizes like this John Henderson helmet. Look at this. We're giving this puppy away, this mini helmet. It's autographed by John Henderson, pretty awesome former Tennessee defensive tackle. We'll give that away on July 31st. It's just $9.98. A couple of recruiting videos and more recruiting coverage is up there now as we really start to hit the ground running. I've got just a huge announcement I can't wait to make. But we're going to have to make that on Friday. So a lot going on in the program. So Caleb has a lot going on. He does. He's got a little one, and he's got a right hand that ain't looking great. Will you hold your right hand up?
Yes, I will. Guys, say a little prayer for me. I'm dealing with some serious carpal tunnel right now.
Oh, my gosh.
But, you know, I'm still working. It's my Michael Jordan flu game, so, you know.
So Caleb's got a lot going on. So he thought of this idea. Let's do top freshman this year. By the way, bumped into Peyton Lewis. Okay. He is way bigger than I thought. He's Jamal Lewis big. What's he listed as? I know the weights came out. Can you tell me what he's listed as? And we're going to do redshirt freshmen, by the way, not sophomores, if I said that. Not true freshmen.
Let me check.
Let me see what he's, because I saw him yesterday.
Peyton
also,
Lewis.
Chaz Nimrod being 220 pounds, Brew at 230. No, you're not crazy to compare them to DK Metcalf and AJ Brown. I love Nimrod personally because we share the last surname cross we must bear. But Caleb, how big is Peyton Lewis listed as?
Peyton Lewis is listed at 6'1", 210 pounds.
Oh, he's bigger than that.
Interesting.
Hey.
Maybe the conditioning program has already had an impact that they didn't expect.
Yeah, have his weights come out? Does anybody? I mean, if you've seen it on the message board, I want to hear about it. But I haven't seen his weights come out. I saw some guys, but I haven't seen his weight come out. But I'd be stunned if he's not 225. I mean, he's my height and a lot thicker and carrying a lot less fat, which is a good thing for him. But Caleb, as I mentioned, has a ton of strengths, but he's also got a lot going on. So we were going to do the top impact true freshman, and Caleb said, wait, we did that 2 weeks ago. So it's redshirt freshman.
What the
Here we
was
go.
he thinking?
Release the hounds.
The Dave Hooker Show.
Keep cool.
A presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
Turned out to be a brilliant idea because nobody does this, but the redshirt freshmen just kind of hang out there, and nobody seems to take note of the fact that they've been in the program for a year, have different bodies, have a feel for simple things like just going to class, their key fob working in the facility, all those sorts of things, and you got a year under your belt. Caleb Calhoun, the top redshirt freshman for this season, is obviously whom?
Nico, go ahead and play it for Chris Fowler.
There you go, Chris.
Yeah, it's obviously Nico Iamaleava. We don't have to have that debate, and he is number one. Before I have the poll question up, so you guys already know it, but I'm just going to go ahead and go through this list. Now, let me say this up front about redshirt freshmen. A lot of redshirt freshmen, a lot of times they redshirt because they weren't great as true freshmen. And the reason they redshirted is because there's true freshmen who are ahead of them, who actually saw the field more last year. And we saw that with some of the players I'm going to name. That does not mean some of them still can't make an impact, though, having had a year in the system. It's not like there was somebody ahead of Nico. They just redshirted him because Joe Milton was the starter and they wanted to save that redshirt. I don't know if that was necessary, but that's what they wanted to do. So, Dave, I'm going to start this with at number 5, and he would not be on the poll question. He would be somebody else because he's on here by default because there's just not as many redshirt freshmen to have an impact. But there's an outside chance, isn't there, that Nathan Leacock works into the receiver rotation?
That's crazy.
No.
You don't think there's any chance?
No.
I think he's the 5th whiteout on the list.
I think he is now. I think by midseason, Mike Matthews and other guys will.
I already have Mike Matthews ahead of him. No, he's the 5th.
Whoa, no, I wouldn't do that, though. So maybe you and I are closer than we think because I would want guys that I'm comfortable with.
Now, don't factor in slot receivers. So Squirrel White and Braylon Staley are not here, but it's whiteouts. So 2 whiteout spots on each side. Brew McCoy on one side. Brew McCoy's locked in, right?
Yes.
On the other side, it's a fight between Mike Matthews, Dante Thornton, and Chris Brazel.
Speaking of receivers, Dante Thornton scheduled to join the program very soon, possibly tomorrow. Dante Thornton. So make sure and set your clocks for that. We go live at 10 a.m. Caleb?
Yes. So whichever one of those wins the number 2 whiteout job, the other 2 will be the 2 backup whiteouts going forward deep. Nathan, they're all going to be part of the rotation to a certain degree. Nathan Leacock is the first person out of that rotation. So I think if somebody goes down, you will see some more Nathan Leacock. But maybe I'm crazy.
Okay. I think you got issues. If Nathan Leacock catches more than 20 balls, I think you've got issues. Would you agree with that?
Okay. Fair enough. That was a bit of a default one. But okay.
Common ground. All right. Who's next?
All right, number 4, and this is where I'm sticking with my guns. He redshirted because the person that he came in with emerged last year down the stretch and started getting to take reps over him. However, cornerback Jordan Matthews has got to be in the rotation this year in some level. And Heupel talks about the depth of the secondary. Jordan Matthews may not start, but he's got to be the first cornerback off the bench.
Say wham.
Can I be the worst host ever and say I'm undecided on Jordan Matthews? I've gone from very high to I don't want to bury him because I haven't seen him play. I've seen him practice, but I can't go there.
Oh,
Caleb.
You can't be undecided. It's election day, so you have to make your decision. You have to vote today.
Okay, well I'm on Kamala Trump. I will say in that particular case, I will say he will have an impact. He will have a significant impact, and I think he's not on the upper tier of newcomers in the secondary, but I think he's right on that second tier. So, okay, I'll say he has an impact.
There you go. So then he deserves to be on this list. Now, number 3, this is
Speed drinker, one note. More wide receivers, the more fresh legs you can keep in rotation. But they only keep the same receivers in the drive because they don't want to substitute. And traditionally, you haven't seen Josh Heupel put a new trio set of receivers in there. Go ahead, go.
Yes, that's very true. Heupel likes to run. He likes to do what David Cutcliffe and Lane Kiffin like to do, a set rotation of go-to receivers. And, I mean, they like to shorten it. Number 3, and you can make a case for this guy for number 2, Dave, who I'm about to name. I may be underrating this guy, but Vyson Lang, redshirt freshman. I mean, Tennessee is in trouble if Vyson Lang is not able to fill that backup center void and Cooper Mays goes down. So he's very important.
Based off what I've been told, I think that they would shift people around right now. So I can't go there. As a matter of fact, I would have him last. No offense. But I think they would do something with Dane Davis or they would do something with something else. I don't think it's as simple as he's second string. I may be proven wrong, and I hope I am by Bison. And there's still preseason camp to go, so we don't know. Offensive lineman, you don't know how much tougher they've gotten in the offseason. But I can't go with you on that one.
Wow. Look at you breaking for me on everybody. Dave just doesn't believe me on anything, guys.
I'll love you like a brother, though, if that helps.
Number 2 for me is Ethan Davis. Tennessee needs an athletic tight end. It comes down to Holden Stays and Ethan Davis. Ethan Davis is too athletic at 6'5", 246 pounds to not be that stretch the field tight end.
He is the utility guy.
Hey now.
Actually, I might have him number 2 behind Nico, but I want to see where you go.
No, I have him number 2. That was my number 2.
Okay, so number 2, and of course, number 1 is now.
All right, you ready for the poll question? You want to see what's on the poll question?
I'm very ready for the poll question.
All right, so the question was, outside of Nico, who is UT's most important redshirt freshman? Ethan Davis, Vyson Lang, Jordan Matthews, or somebody else? Dave, Jordan Matthews is leading at 33%.
No way.
Ethan Davis and Vyson Lang are tied at 28%. And somebody else is 11%.
So somebody else could be anybody. No, somebody else at 11%. That means
wow, Dave, that is some real deep, thought-provoking stuff right there.
Right,
guys, somebody else could be anybody.
But we've got, we've got 5 guys that we're talking about, and Jordan Matthews leads, and not even close. So that surprises me a little bit. You know who my guy is? Did you not? Was Ethan Davis not on your list?
No, he was. He was number 2.
Okay. I like Ethan Davis a lot. So,
I'm very high on him. That's why I had him at number 2.
Yeah, I like Ethan Davis.
I mean, I guess maybe we could say Max Gilbert, the kicker, because he's going to be handling kickoff duties this year, right? And he's a redshirt freshman. But
I may have misunderstood you earlier. I think Ethan Davis is going to be very, very good. I want to clearly go on the record, and I think he will fit into this offense about midway through the season, and that's when you'll really see his play escalate. I think Holden Stays will not be the playmaker that Ethan Davis is for 2 reasons. He doesn't have the physical ability, and I think they want him to be the blocking top of tight end. The question is, when is Ethan Davis ready? And if he's not ready to be a great receiving tight end, which he has the physical ability to do, because he's also going to have to pass protect, then do we have the same conversation we had last year where Tennessee could potentially go 4 wide? I don't see that happening, but it's worth the discussion.
Could Ethan Davis, and I don't want to like cast aspersions on somebody. Are you saying with his raw potential, could it be somebody who wasted because he's not willing to pass protect because he wants to protect himself for the next level?
Oh, no. I haven't gotten that impression at all. I've not gotten it. I just don't think he's very good at it because he's light. I could teach you all the techniques, Caleb, and the bottom line is you're not 320 pounds. So I think that'll be a struggle. Now, Max Gilbert getting some talk here. Here's what I've been told about the kicking situation. Now, factor in that Josh Turbeville did kick some out of bounds. I was told that was nerves. The kickoffs, not field goals. That'd be bad if he kicked those out of bounds. But he kicked some kicks out of bounds. I've been told that was nerves and that was trying to kick it too hard. And they liked the fact that he calmed those and by the end of the season eliminated some of those issues. And I've been told he has the early edge to be the place kicker, the field goal kicker. I don't know that he will definitely win the job, but I've been told early edge. So I don't want to rule anybody out. I've been accused of rooting for the local guy. I'm not rooting for anybody, but that is what I've been told. By the way, T. Scott Jones will join us a little bit later in the program. How serious is that situation at LSU where the cornerback likes to record himself doing the nasty? Probably more serious than you think. I would just say probably more serious than you think. Is that safe to say, Caleb?
I think that's very, very safe to say. That's I could see it being very, very serious.
We'll talk to T. Scott Jones about that in just a bit. But we want to talk the Big Ten. The Big Ten and the SEC are the leaders, correct, Caleb?
Correct. Everything, and the Big 12's trying to fight their way into that rotation, but right now it's still the Big Ten and the SEC.
Right, it's them. So that's what they're doing. And I will tell you this right now, that it's eventually going to be the teams out of the SEC, the better teams. I'm not talking about the Vanderbilts of the world or the Northwesterns in the case of the Big Ten, and the Big Ten that are going to create a super conference. But then I think the Big Ten is in for a very rude awakening. And I'm going to tell you why in 2 minutes with Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. The show represented by Banks & Jones. Go to banksandjones.com.
Cab 4x4 STX, $45,985. 24 Ford Escape, $30,962. 24 Ford Maverick XLT, $32,720. Ray Varner Ford, your East Tennessee Ford dealership.
Sports Treasures in North Knoxville is one of the South's largest sports cards and memorabilia dealers, featuring over 10 million sports cards from vintage to modern. Sports Treasures carries a full line of hobby boxes, singles, autographed memorabilia, Tennessee Vol collectibles, fan cave decorations, and so much more. See a museum full of collectibles at Sports Treasures, 4819 North Broadway in Fountain City, and Sports Treasures on Facebook. Sports Treasures, where the real sports fan goes to shop.
Have you seen the latest TriStar Hats Co. product?
TriStar Hats Co.? What's that?
You know, those really cool hats, shirts, tumblers, and even license plates with 3 stars like the official Tennessee flag and stripes like the American flag. Pretty patriotic if you ask me.
Ah, gotcha. Seen those. Those are cool. Where can I get them?
Simple. TriStarHatsCo.com. And if you order now, there's 10% on any order $50 or more. Plus, use the promo code HOOKED.
With the promo code HOOKED, you get 10% off. That's hooked.
And don't forget free shipping with any order over $50. Stock up at TriStarHatsCo.com. That's TriStarHatsCo.com. There are plenty of wannabes out there, so make sure you go to TriStarHatsCo.com for the best quality and customer service.
Will do, and I'll be sure to use the promo code HOOKED. That's hooked when I do, to save an additional 10% off. TriStarHatsCo.com.
TriStar Hats Co. is a trademark of TriStar Hats Co. LLC. Any use without express written consent is prohibited.
Now in its 45th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
The Dave Hooker Show, represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win, banksjones.com.
You're listening to The Dave Hooker Show, a presentation of OffTheHookSports.com.
The internet is full of pictures of each and every one of you.
Available on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, and the Off the Hook Sports app. Download now for free.
Is there nothing you people can't do?
Also available on OffTheHookSports.com.
Portions of the program brought to you by our good friends at Apex Apparel Group Design. Apex Apparel Group Design. Call Tyler at 865-919-3001. Look at my shirt. It's embroidered and everything. Get 15% off your first order for your company or your spirit wear. That's Apex Apparel Group Design. Call 865-919-3001. 919-3001. And we're going to discuss the Big Ten. Don't we all love to hate the Big Ten? Yes. If you do, hit like and subscribe. At least like if you've already subscribed. Caleb, we dislike the Big Ten because of their pompous attitude. And we saw this with Texas at SEC Media Days, trying to get the horns down thing outlawed. The Big Ten has the gall and or stupidity to go out and get 2 teams from LA. So we're going to get to see some Rutgers, UCLA, lacrosse, or gymnastics, or whatever the conference decides on. So I think it's pretty obvious that both the Big Ten and the SEC are very confident / cocky, right?
Correct.
I will say this. I think there's good reason to be cocky if you're the SEC. You're the home of college football. The Big Ten, I do not understand their cockiness whatsoever. Going out and trying to get West Coast teams is absolutely goofy. I think as good as the Big Ten is, they're far short of the SEC. So, Caleb, I ask you this question. Is the Big Ten closer to the SEC or the rest of the conference?
The rest of the conference
is. Excuse me.
Yes. Now, keep in mind, what we're talking about now is going to be irrelevant in about 2 years. This conference pride thing is almost dead, and I think it's going to be dead very soon, because the conference is just getting too big. As of right now, if conferences were to stay as they were, I would say the Big Ten in 5 or 6 years will catch up to the SEC. But right now, going into this year, 2024, I think in terms of quality of conference, I think it's laughable to say the SEC and the Big Ten as if they're one and the same. I think the Big Ten is closer in league with the Big 12 and the ACC. As a matter of fact, I think there's a case for the ACC against the Big Ten. And I know Michigan just won the national title. I get it. But Dave, okay, they added USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington. Washington's not going to be as good this year. They just lost Kalen DeBoer. They're not going back to the college football playoff. Oregon is a big addition. USC, I don't know if you know this. Paul Feinbaum was talking about it the other day. They want Lincoln Riley gone already at USC. He's effectively fired.
I've heard that.
Yeah, so they're not good. UCLA is not a great program. So really the only upgrade they got was Oregon. So let's talk about powers real quick in the Big Ten. Oregon, Michigan, Ohio State, and then at a tier below, but still a good team, is Penn State. That's it. Okay.
Yeah, that is it.
Yeah, that's it.
Now, how deep does the SEC go? Because
Well,
I
we
got
know
a good
the
answer
SEC
for
absolutely. The SEC laps that because you're talking, Georgia, Texas, Alabama, LSU. You can make. I mean, that's just 4 right there. But then, I mean,
now, are you picking? No, wait a second. Are you picking out programs that could compete for championships right now, or that are traditionally better?
Right now, I'm talking right now.
Okay.
Right now. Georgia, Texas, Alabama, and I'm saying this off the top of my head, by the way. LSU, Ole Miss, Tennessee, Oklahoma. I'm missing one. I'm missing somebody else that was actually picked ahead of Tennessee. My mind is totally drawing a blank. The point is, there's
I'll answer. I can answer it maybe a little bit easier, but to your point, Tennessee has odds. Can you look up Tennessee's odds to win a national title? Are there odds out for that, or make the college football playoff? Tennessee has a decent shot of playing in the national championship game. Has an outside shot of winning the national championship. Most national analysts would agree. Caleb thinks it's this year. They have a really good shot at making the college football playoff. So let's go with that last requirement. How many teams in the Big Ten? Because the answer is 7 in the SEC. Have a really good shot because Tennessee was voted 7th in the SEC by the media. So there are 7 teams, I believe, at least, that have a really good shot of making the college football playoff. I'm going to list off these teams, and you tell me if they have an opportunity of making the college football playoff. Michigan?
Hey now.
Yes. Ohio State?
Hey now.
Penn State?
Yes, 12-team playoff. Yes, they would have been in this past year. They'll get in at 10-2.
Okay. I just don't like Penn State. Maryland?
No.
That's crazy.
Rutgers?
No.
That's crazy.
I agree with you. Michigan State?
No.
What are they still paying Mel Tucker? Yes, they are. Indiana, of course.
That's crazy.
They're not going to make it. Now you go to the Big Ten West. There's not a team. There's not a single team. Iowa, Northwestern, Wisconsin, Nebraska, Purdue, Minnesota, Illinois.
You suck, you jackass.
None of them could make a college football playoff this year.
You have forgotten, though, you have to add the newcomers in. You're not looking at the newcomers, to be fair. Oregon, Washington, and USC and UCLA. USC and Oregon do have betting odds. You consider them. I think both of them have realistic college football playoff shots. Is that fair to say?
Say that one more time.
The 4 newcomers, to be fair to the Big Ten, Oregon obviously has a college football playoff shot. They're a likely college football playoff team.
Right?
Washington and USC, you could consider having shots at the college football playoff, right?
No.
You don't think USC even has a shot?
No, I think they both have coaching problems. And USC just lost Caleb Williams. And I mean, no, I don't. And Washington lost an innovative coach. Let's face it. In a conference like the Pac-12 or whatever it is, the ACC or whatever, you can have one special player or you can have one really special coach and you can win at a high level. That barely gets you halfway through an SEC schedule.
So here's the question then, because the question is not the Big Ten versus the SEC, because this year it's so clearly the SEC as it has been. But Dave, I'm pulling up FanDuel odds now. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So Notre Dame is a de facto ACC school. When you go deep into the top 20, there are as many ACC schools with national title odds as Big Ten schools. And keep in mind, there are 4 fewer ACC schools. And I'm counting Notre Dame, by the way, because Notre Dame is a de facto ACC school. So 3 fewer. Blandly, I told you tomorrow, you get to choose between the Big Ten and the ACC, and you're looking for the easiest road. Are you sure you're choosing the ACC? Are you sure you're choosing the ACC for the easier road?
Are you telling me the ACC is almost as good as the Big Ten? Is that what you're telling me?
I'm telling you this year the ACC is almost as good as the Big Ten. And if you consider the fact that they have 3 fewer teams per depth, the ACC may be better than the Big Ten. Honestly, I am telling you that. I am saying that.
TriStar hats for the latest in TriStar hats. Go to the original hats, apparel, and more. TriStarHatsCo.com. TriStarHatsCo.com. Use the promo code HOOKED for 10% off. Well, what does that say about what the Big Ten has put together? To me,
here's the thing.
It tells me it's just kind of blah.
Well, this is the thing the Big Ten did. They put together, they are way behind in terms of talent. What they've done is going to put them in a position long-term to compete with the SEC, because this is what I keep bringing up. They went for the West Coast, and they have 4 West Coast teams now. They went for markets. What did that do, Dave? That allowed them to negotiate TV deals that lap the SEC. Literally lap. Because Greg Sankey's bringing in $3 billion a year to the SEC. The Big Ten's bringing in $7 billion. Those 2 contracts start this year. And the Big Ten's going to renegotiate in 7 years before the SEC can renegotiate in 10 years. You guys can say what you want about NIL. The Big Ten is about to have a lot more NIL money to throw at players than the SEC is, because they won't need booster money to upgrade the stadiums and upgrade and hire the coaches and do that thing, because the TV money is going to come and do that. And that is why in 5 to 7 years, right now the SEC has the regional advantage. They can recruit players in their backyard because all the talent is in the South. But I'm telling you right now, the Michigans and the Ohio State, forget the Michigans and Ohio States. They're always relevant, right? They don't count. They're always relevant.
Yes.
The Wisconsins, the Nebraskas, not Iowa, because they are stuck with that 175-year-old coach who will not change for the life of him. But Iowa's, Nebraska's, yes, maybe even the Penn States, they're going to start rolling with that TV money that opens up their NIL checkbooks. They're going to start rolling into SEC country and saying, hey, Want to go play for Georgia for $300,000? Or do you want to come play for me for $800,000? Now, you say don't trip over nickels and search for millions, but tripping over nickels is usually like 300 or 250. 300 or 800,000, all of a sudden that money screams a little bit bigger.
Okay, here's why I'm going to tell you why you're wrong. 15 seconds from Joe Neubert.
5th year, the second and third generations continue Joe Neubert's commitment.
His vision of what this business needed to be, we still try to live up to that.
Joe Neubert Collision Center.
Caleb, simple fact is there are enough players in the SEC to stock all of their teams that can compete at that level and have the facilities. I'm not talking about the Vanderbilts of the world, but there are enough players in the SEC to stock those teams, Texas, Oklahoma included, with talent that will be willing to take a discount to play in the nation's best conference. Let's just face it. Okay, let's be honest. We've all been up north. The SEC is just a cooler conference. I mean, even when the Big Ten tries their big noon kickoff, which people like the show more than College Game Day because it's different. I get that. But all that being said, Caleb, when it may be different, it may be a better pregame show, but I've worked for a company that was based out of Ohio. They knew when the Ohio State-Michigan game was, but they might not know the other weeks who Ohio State was playing, and they were Ohio State fans. They might not know till Thursday or Friday that it was Michigan State. Tennessee fans know who Tennessee's playing in the second week of December. So do most SEC fans. That culture, that pool, we talk about discounts for Josh Heupel because he coaches receivers, and that should help, or discounts to play for Saban because he'll get you to the NFL, or same thing for Kirby Smart. How about the discount to be close to home? And that's where the best football players are in the South. So I see where you're going, but I can't buy into that.
Okay, but here's what I mean. I don't think that like this is going to make the Big Ten surpass the SEC just straight up, although it could because the monetary value is so different. We're not talking like, again, Dave, we're not talking a discount of like, okay, Tennessee comes in and offers a Georgia kid $300,000. Georgia offers that kid $250,000, and that kid chooses to stay and play for Kirby Smart for $250,000. We're talking offering $700,000 versus $300,000. Discounts are relevant based on what the. Will you at least agree that it matters the size of the discount?
Yes. I mean, I'm talking about roughly a 25% discount, whatever the number is. Would you? I mean, I think
we're going to have to take a 75% discount. The Big Ten has that much more money coming in.
Well, then we're having a different conversation.
Yes.
I have a feeling, though, and this is based off the Dallas Strip, that television contract may have some wiggle room in it. That may be reworked.
Until it is, the SEC.
Until it is, the SEC got burned.
They got burned. Now, here's the other layer to this. I'm not discounting your discount. You see what I did there? I'm not discounting your discount theory.
I just buckled up Aaron Rodgers style. Ow, my Achilles. It's my one weakness.
I'm not discounting your discount theory. I am saying, though, it's still an equalizer to a certain degree. It does lessen it because while, like, it does give the Big Ten an advantage that doesn't put it on par with the SEC, but makes it not as far behind. And here's what I'm trying to say. Right now, and you tell me, I haven't even gotten your thoughts on this. Am I crazy for thinking the Big Ten is closer to the SEC, to the ACC than the SEC in terms of quality?
No, right no, you're not.
Okay. Nope. What I mean is 5 years from now, I don't think that'll be the case to you. 5 years from now, I think the Big Ten will be closer to the SEC than the ACC.
And some ACC teams that make the jump to those two conferences.
Exactly. And so
I mean, the two conferences are going to pull away. But right now, as of July 2024, that's not the case.
Right. And that's where I'm at. Is like right now, the Big Ten, it's funny when people talk about Big Ten, SEC, Big Ten, SEC. They're doing that because of where college football is going. But if you look at the quality of the conferences right now, I mean, it's kind of weird to me that the ACC can't negotiate and get bigger schools than the Big Ten because the ACC, I think, competes with the Big Ten to a certain level in terms of quality. And the Big 12, that's a different story. They're being all flashy, which is cool. I actually think what they're doing is smart. But I just don't think that I think it's weird when we lump them together, because really in terms of quality, it's the SEC. They're doing that because they know about the Big Ten contracts, and they know what I know, which is that because of the money the Big Ten's about to bring in, the Big Ten is about to compete with the SEC in a way that they've never been able to before, to where, put it this way, Dave, I do think this, 5 to 7 years, I think even if the SEC's better, it's not going to be as noticeable as it is right now. It's like, okay, maybe it's slightly better, but it's like, it doesn't really make a difference what conference you play in. It's not like right now, 8-4 in the SEC is 10-2 in the Big Ten. Is that a fair comparison?
Yes.
I think in about 7 years, 10-2 will mean the same thing in the SEC and the Big Ten.
And right now, we had the discussion about Penn State, whether or not they were playoff quality. Well, they are based off what they won last year, but they wouldn't be playoff quality if they were in the SEC. They would lose 4 games.
Yes, depending on how the schedule's set up, because as we know, Lane Kiffin is Ole Miss is the Penn State of the SEC. Is that fair to say?
Yes. How many of you live in North Knoxville? Well, new friend of the program, and part of what we're going to do with Hooker's Hangouts, Asia Cafe. It is absolutely the best Asian cuisine that you will have. It is fantastic. So check them out there on Callahan Drive, Knoxville's best Asian cuisine. You'll see me there. Hooker's Hangouts will be a series of restaurants that you'll be able to pick up prizes at. And that's one. No prizes there yet, but they will be. But stop by, if you can, on Callahan Drive there at Asia Cafe. And there's the QR code one more time, and tell them that Off the Hook Sports and Dave Hooker sent you. Now, the Rose Bowl is something that I have split feelings on. I love it. I respect it. I've been there. I got the chills. I saw John Wooden in a wheelchair. He was still barely alive. I've got a lot of respect for that place. It was neat. It was special. But the Rose Bowl has always tried to be different, kind of like that Texas Longhorns down thing, and tried to be pompous and better. Listen, you may have been first, but that doesn't make you better. Caleb, I've got a problem with the Rose Bowl and what they're trying to do. Share that with us and why you don't have a problem.
So the Rose Bowl is doing this thing where they are trying to force their way out of the college football playoff bowl rotation to where they are always a New Year's Day game. Now, they still want to be part of the college football playoff, but they want to make sure their game is always played on New Year's Day. They want to keep that tradition alive. Theoretically, like, I think the way the playoff is doing it is like, okay, the first round games played on campus. The next round, the quarterfinal games are played at the bowl. At the quarterfinal games and semifinal games are played in a rotation of the New Year's Six bowls, and they rotate into semifinal bowls, 2 of them every year. I think the Rose Bowl is trying to avoid being a semifinal game and basically accept staying a quarterfinal game because they want to stay a New Year's Day bowl game.
I missed New Year's Day. I think I told you the story where one time I drove home from covering the Peach Bowl because I wanted to be home New Year's Day and watch the game with my young family at the time. So that to me was a big holiday. I mean, I loved it. It was games back to back to back, but it wasn't just the Rose Bowl. I don't think you can resurrect how special January the 1st was for a long time. I think that ship has sailed. So if that's what the Rose Bowl is trying to do, Caleb, I appreciate that and I respect that, but hit like and subscribe if you agree with me that those days have passed.
I'm going to disagree with you. I'm going to disagree with you.
Okay. I figured that might happen.
I think the Rose Bowl and the Sugar Bowl should be locked into New Year's Day. Those 2 bowls should be locked into New Year's Day. They are so special.
No, wait. If you're going there, give me 3. Because I want noon, I want 4, and I want 8. And I want to make it a day again. But you can't give me 2 because what are you going to do? Noon and 4? Or am I going to take a 4-hour break in the middle? You got to give me 3 bowls.
Well, wait,
taking away.
Dave, I think that's the plan. No, that is the plan. It's just they're rotating which bowls they are. But like one bowl is going to be New Year's Eve, and then the other 3 quarterfinal bowls will be like noon, 4, and 8. The question is, should the Rose Bowl always be one of those New Year's Day bowl games? I'll say this. I've never been to a Rose Bowl. I've watched it on TV. I know it's not an SEC bowl game, but SEC fans love to talk about the pageantry of college football more than anybody else. Dave, let's be honest. When you watch the Rose Bowl, do you see any bowl game capture an understanding of the pageantry of college football better than the Rose Bowl? They get it. You can say whatever you want about them. They get it. They understand the pageantry.
It is funny, though, that you can go like a mile away as the crow flies, and they don't even know a football game's going on.
They don't.
Yes, but right in that area, you're right. And they've got parking close by, and it's a great feel.
And
it's definitely the best feel outside of the SEC that I've ever been to.
And it was very triggering. And this is when people who like now when outsiders, casuals get into following college football, which, by the way, we welcome. I think if you're a college football fan, you want more and more fans, right? You welcome more fans. The catch with college football is a lot of people who come outside to cover it don't understand certain things about college football. So it was very triggering I welcome somebody like Stephen A. Smith to cover college football. Great. I love it. I want more exposure for college football. But he goes to the Rose Bowl last year. He goes on First Take the next day and says they should move the Rose Bowl to SoFi Stadium in LA. Do you know how triggering that was for college football fans to hear? That thing belongs at the Rose Bowl in Pasadena. Is that fair for me to say? It's still triggering to me that the Cotton Bowl has moved to AT&T Stadium in Dallas. I want it back at the Cotton Bowl Stadium.
I think they're trying. I'm with Adam. I think they're trying to stay relevant after they lost their biggest contract with the Pac-12. And I do agree with Travis as well. Nothing should be locked in, including playoff spots. Rotate them. I agree with the playoff spot thing. I think that there should be some sort of formula where we can take the human element out of it. I hate the whole college football selection show. So I don't want anything locked in. I want to see. I mean, nobody's buying New York Giants playoff tickets right now because they just know that game's going to happen. Listen, you may not know when it's going to happen, but wow, I just really have a real hard time with one bowl having preferential treatment than the other. Because I will say this, you bring up a great point. The Rose Bowl captures the pageantry, but what captures the party life better than the Sugar Bowl?
It doesn't. I want the Sugar Bowl. Wait, I want the Sugar Bowl there on New Year's Day too. I want those 2 bowls specifically on New Year's Day.
But I wouldn't give one bowl preferential treatment. What says ultimate vacation like the Orange Bowl? You don't think that players get excited about that? So they all have their individual feel. The Cotton Bowl is more tradition laden like the Rose Bowl. There's some similarities there, even though it's not even played in the old Cotton Bowl, which the heater doesn't work in the press box. So that's fine. But Caleb, those games, if you're going to give the Rose Bowl preferential treatment, then I think other bowls are going to have a real problem with that, because ultimately those bowls, I don't understand why the Rose Bowl wants to be on January 1st, frankly. I would want to be in prime time. That would really bother me if they said we want to be prime time on January.
Because they understand college football tradition, and they're trying to hold on to something that people have taken away from people like me who love college football tradition. There, I said it. That's why
you truly believe it's altruistic?
Yes. They capture the essence of college. Dave, the Rose Bowl, don't forget, in the 90s, iced themselves out of the national title game for 4 years. When they created the College Football National Championship, the Rose Bowl kept themselves from being in the rotation because they believed in the tradition of the Pac-10 and Big Ten contracts. This is the Rose Bowl is not this is what people don't understand with bowl games. Bowl games aren't sanctioned by the NCAA usually. They are created by entities and agencies. Nowadays, they're almost all for profit. The Rose Bowl is different. It is put on by the Tournament of Roses, a nonprofit committee set in Pasadena about promoting Pasadena for New Year's, because they brag about the fact that they have nice weather when other schools and other places across the country don't. That's what it historically is. I love that about it. You can't change that. The whole idea, the reason they won it on New Year's Day, Dave, is, and I encourage everybody to go look at my video on the history of college football's national championship and postseasons. I did a deep dive into the Rose Bowl because it was the first one. It's put on by a nonprofit set on showcasing Pasadena on New Year's Day with the Tournament of Roses parade.
Which is theoretically what all the bowls were supposed to be, and then they decided that they were going to be money-making machines.
Yes, and credit to the Rose Bowl for not budging on it. They're still run by the Tournament of Roses parade.
Oh, come on, Caleb. Are you telling me that the bowl executives aren't getting cash?
What I'm saying is that the Tournament of Roses parade is still responsible for when the Rose Bowl is, and the Tournament of Roses is the nonprofit entity. The Tournament of Roses parade celebrates the Rose Bowl. They won it around the parade. The whole point of the Rose Bowl is to help the parade and the tourism for the parade, which happens on New Year's. That's why they won it on New Year's. They're thinking about the city of Pasadena. I love them for that.
Caleb's fired up. The show represented by Banks & Jones, Tennessee's trial attorney. Play to win. Why Banks & Jones? Other lawyers say they'll go to trial. They won't. They'll settle and settle for less. Banks & Jones ready to go to trial for you. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorneys. Why settle? Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones at banksandjones.com. And we're going to be joined by T. Scott Jones to talk about an LSU cornerback that just can't stop recording stuff. Well, it's because they're Tennessee's trial attorney. You can play to win with Banks & Jones because they'll go to trial. You've heard of other lawyers. They say they'll go to trial and fight for you. They won't. They just want to settle. That's the easiest way out. Well, that's not Banks & Jones, led by T. Scott Jones. They won't settle. They'll go to trial for you. Tennessee's trial attorney. They play to win. Truly, Tennessee's trial attorney when it comes to criminal defense or personal injury. Why settle? It's Banks & Jones. T. Scott Jones. banksandjones.com. And there he is on your screen. T. Scott Jones joins us now. How are you, counselor?
I'll tell you what, I'm outstanding. I'm just glad to be here on a rainy Wednesday.
Yeah, I think since I last spoke to you, Tennessee won a championship. I know you're a monstrous Tennessee fan.
I am a huge Diamond Vol fan. That was outstanding. I tell you, I think we had noise complaints from my neighbors because I was on the back porch watching it, yelling so loud and so vociferously for my Vols. And, it's kind of like you just knew it was a team of destiny. You get down to that last out. And, I learned a long time ago from my minister, we were at the national championship game and he was close by. And I'm like, would be appropriate to pray for Tennessee to win. He says, don't pray for Tennessee to win. Pray to give them strength. By God, I was praying for some strength.
More strength. More home runs. More home runs. Better pitches.
Please.
God answers prayers. He certainly does.
Absolutely. I tell you, outstanding, a long time coming. And just interesting stuff. And just so happy. Such a group of just fine young men and what a coach. I tell you, outstanding.
He's a good looking guy. I bet he does all right with the ladies. You're a good looking guy. So
you know what I mean? I don't compare to Tony V. And, obviously I've been married for 35 years. So I have been long placed on the shelf. But that being said, I strongly suspect that there is no lack of young ladies that would be willing to spend some time with him.
You're right. I think you're exactly right.
That's a great transition to what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
I was sitting there thinking, supplement your income with a little OnlyFans action or something of that nature. Talk about name, image, and likeness. We're talking the full image here. We're not talking just, my God, some of us kind of work from the shoulders up. Some of us work from the waist up. Evidently, he's kind of bringing the whole package, waist down program.
He is. And we're talking about LSU cornerback Javian Tobiano, who was accused of video voyeurism. Just when I think that I've covered everything, be it a fight, some sort of traffic violation, that in 25 years, I've covered every possible thing. I've never heard of anything like this. So I come to you completely ignorant. How serious? How serious is this compared to our run-of-the-mill college athlete issues?
Well, you know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking they got a big cup down there at LSU, and they got a label on it that says stupid. And most folks, they drink like one at a time. He two-fisted it. I mean, I'm just like, it's a bad decision relative to that. And, as I understand, this secreted camera was in an alarm clock. And so evidently had sexual relations. I mean, kudos for him. I mean, you know what I mean? You got to keep the world rocking and rolling. But, recording it without the consent of the individual that you are engaging in copulation with, that's a bad decision. I mean, just an all-around bad decision. I mean, you're probably looking at, I can't tell you what Louisiana's law is, but in the state of Tennessee, I mean, you start doing that unlawful photography, you start talking a situation where you're talking felonies. You know what I mean? It's like, we're not talking about a regular penalty. We're talking about, what's that penitentiary down there in Louisiana, Angola? I mean, long story short, you know what? He might not be on the pitching end. He may be on the receiving end if he goes down there. I mean, just saying.
Oh,
nice. Well,
all right, so
Caleb, I know that you're a big home video guy. So, do you want to ask any advice of the counselor here?
Well,
Caleb's home movies.
Jones, I have always said that everything LSU ever does, they act like they're drunk when they do it as a program. Okay, it should be the easiest program to be successful at in the country, given how great the talent is down there. But I feel like, is it shocking that it would happen to LSU? But this is the school whose most recent coach before Brian Kelly walked up to a random woman at a gas station and said, "Hey, you look like you work out. Want to work out together?" And yes, he actually said that.
Well, I'm thinking, you know what I mean? It's torpedoes. You got to fire enough of them, you eventually hit a ship. Maybe that was Coach O's program. It's real.
Obviously, you have to speak in generalities of this.
He's not being convicted of anything, so let's presume he's innocent, as we all should, until proven guilty. But, the problem's going to be, quote unquote, and I get it's digital video, but it's going to be the tail of the tape, so to speak. As far as what happens. You know what I mean? If there's a video of you doing the nasty and the old gal, she didn't agree to it, you got a problem. How did it get there? I don't know.
See, to me, Counselor, I was going to ask you that, the whole premeditation, and she also said, don't do that again. He had done it once. That, to me, that in the premeditation makes it 10 times worse, or does it? I'm not a lawyer.
Well, it shows a reckless disregard. So that being said, obviously that's a situation where, you didn't just make an impetuous, stupid decision as a youngster. You didn't, hold your phone up and take a video or do something of that nature. You secreted a camera in a device and recorded somebody. It's almost, honestly, it's kind of creepy.
Creepy.
One way or the other, it's kind of creepy. I don't know. We've got the situation going on with Buc-ee's and their secreted cameras, everybody's favorite truck stop. But
I hadn't heard that.
Yeah, the owner's son is accused of secreting cameras at a lodge in the restroom and in the private facilities there. So I don't know. I actually just saw one of the comments there. It's kind of funny about an NIL deal with the Trojan condoms. I don't know. That one's touche. That was good.
I can just see him holding up the box and says, "Don't believe me? Check back in 9 months."
I don't ever leave home without them. So, have condoms will travel. I don't know. It's going to have to be literally, you would think, basically a situation where you have to stand up in front of these athletes and say, okay, these are the stupid things that have been done this past year. Don't do them. And, if you have to think about whether or not it's a good idea to do it, it's generally a bad idea. You know, I mean, if your mama, well, probably not your mom, your grandma or somebody would be ashamed of you for doing it, probably a bad decision.
Yeah, it's that old rule, like after being out past midnight. Travis says, what if you had a video monitoring in progress sign outside your door asking for a friend? Caleb, it's Caleb.
Well, I mean, you know, Caleb said she had those home movies. I mean, you know, look at it. I mean, you know what? We may need Faces of Off the Hook calendar. You know what I mean? You know, we get Caleb out there, you know, a little extra generating revenue. What do you think? But
there you go.
I don't think there would be any expectation. I mean, you're in a bed. I'm assuming, again, alarm clock, which, you know, most of us don't really use those anymore, albeit I still do for everybody's edification. I mean, I know I set it on my phone, but I do actually have a clock that like projects on the, ceiling. But, you know, you would assume that from everything, the descriptor, that it's in a bedroom. So, you know what I mean? They're doing the horizontal hustle and, you know, something's going on there. I mean, maybe that's part of like, you know, non-mandatory workouts down there at LSU. I mean,
we gotta
work in the cardio.
Maybe they got like an equipment issue and that you've got to do your hip thrusters on your own.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of like a burpee, but not really. I mean, you know,
if you jump straight up at the end, she's kind of scared.
So, see, Scott Jones, this is an honest question with things like reasonable expectation of privacy with these things. And I know it's state by state, but just your thoughts on this. So, like, for instance, if someone comes into your house and you have a video recorder in the bathroom and they go to the bathroom and you're spying on them, like, obviously that's crossing many legal lines because you're looking at them and their genitalia when they didn't expect to be looked at. But okay, even if you secretly record a video with you having sex with somebody and you don't put it and you don't distribute it anywhere, it's just for you and your own pleasure to like go back and relive that moment. I'm asking, can she really have a reasonable expectation of privacy, or he for that matter, if they already revealed themselves fully to you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think under that set of circumstances, there is a situation where we have a law in the state of Tennessee, and I would assume most states do, even Louisiana, because they basically evolved out of French law as opposed to basically the law of Great Britain. But under the circumstances, we have what's called unlawful photography, which disallows you from being able to just shoot random photographs. And we're not talking like, you know what I mean, your kid's out there next to a monument and there's some people walking around in the background. But I mean, where you're specifically targeting folks, and that would apply as far as dealing with video as well. I mean, you know, when the law was originally placed on the books, I mean, we really didn't have video cameras except those big monsters that you carried on your shoulder. But now with the ability, I mean, you know, these little bitty tiny cameras and things of that nature, you know, it's kind of bad. I don't know. I mean, you know, all kidding aside, obviously, I think that's going to pose a serious problem for the young man. But then ultimately, I think it's going to come down to, do we see it come in as a hurricane and go out kind of, you know, quite frankly, to use your bathroom analogy, Caleb, a fart. So, you know, we've got, sorry, I couldn't help it. You know, I do have the mind of a 12-year-old. But when we're talking about it, and, you know, I mean, is this gal going to back off? I mean, you know, I mean, she may get her own name, image, and I mean, she may be the next Kardashian. You know what I mean? Where, you know, that video may propel her to, you know, stardom relative to it. You know, oh my gosh, her name is escaping me. You know, the bathroom video, not bathroom, hotel video in Nashville, ESPN reporter.
Aaron Andrews.
Right. I mean, I get her person was invaded, her privacy, everything of that nature. But, you know, publicity of any nature, for the most part, you know, that's, you know, a positive thing relative to propelling somebody's career. Obviously, she had a very successful lawsuit against that hotel and that hotel chain. But, you know, in this situation, I mean, this gal, I mean, wouldn't you be mortified? I mean, you know, just, you know, I wouldn't want somebody to have a video of me dropping a deuce. I mean, it's just not something I'd want to have out there on the internet.
You don't expect anybody to see you doing that. She obviously expected this person to see her having sex with him because she was having sex with him. Unless she could have blindfolded him.
What I would want to do if I was the one doing it, I'd want to put it like in super slow-mo so everybody could expect it lasted a lot longer than it actually did.
I mean, you know what I mean? I mean, I'd hate to sit there. I mean, as I say, I have been resplendent in giving folks the best 30 seconds of their life. But, that being said.
My key is if I'm going to do that like Caleb and this guy,
I like me.
I would say that I need the slimming feature. That's what, if there's a feature, a slimming filter. That's what I need. Just slim me up a little bit. That's.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be catfishing the other folks. But all kidding aside,
it is a serious situation. The young man's innocent till proven guilty. But again, it's going to be a situation where you look at the circumstances associated with it. And I mean, this young girl may be basically just totally mortified. I mean, there's one thing, deciding to do, something and have sex with somebody, but I don't know. I mean, I think it's going to be a problem there at LSU. I don't know. It may not be a statue erected, so to speak. Sorry. That was like an unintended pun as far as erected.
It's LSU. They will erect a statue for them. Scott Jones, every day that goes by, I can't believe Nick Saban, one of the smartest people in the history of college football, was at that program for 5 years.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I mean, he got a natty. He got a natty there.
He did.
I mean,
He's got to be sitting. He had to be sitting there all 5 years, like, I'm surrounded by idiots.
No, I mean, it is a conflagration of the triple figure IQ challenged. I mean, I don't want to throw the gauntlet down too bad, but that's a bad decision. You just have to know it is a bad decision.
Wow. Travis says he's officially my favorite lawyer. I agree. When it comes to personal injury, when it comes to criminal defense and other legal issues as well, I tell you what, T. Scott, you've helped me a million times, whether it's been trademark or questions I've had. You pointed me in the right direction. What all do you do, and how do people get a hold of you?
Well, I'll tell you what, you can reach out to my office. It's T. Scott Jones, the law firm of Banks & Jones. We've been around since the 50s. Number is 865-546-2141. Also, that being said, you can reach out to me via my email, which is tscottjones@banks, BANKS, and AND, Jones, JONES.com. And we'll do our best to answer your questions. I mean, reality of it is we are trial lawyers. I just literally so happen to be sans tie. I had a homicide that we resolved on Monday, which gave me an office day unexpected. So had an opportunity to be in here driving nails and doing what we do, sort of playing catch up. So, I am going to go home and check my clock for, cameras. But other than that, just plan on doing quite a bit of work. I don't know.
Yeah, just don't go to Caleb's house.
Well, I mean, stop the sign, right? Videotaping in progress, enter at your own risk.
Yeah, don't have you over. Caleb's the type of guy who goes through your medicine drawer to find out what you're
really, guys.
You know what I mean? There's no love like a friend. You know what I mean? So, it's good stuff.
Banks & Jones, buddy, we appreciate you as always more than you know. Have a blessed day, sir.
You do the same. Take care, guys. Appreciate you, gentlemen. Bye-bye.
Jones, Banks & Jones. And I want to go back to our poll question because a lot of people have brought that up. Outside of Nico, who is UT's most important redshirt freshman? So early on, Bison Lang jumped up there, just coincidentally. Now it's Ethan Davis at 43%. So he's kind of pulled away. Bison Lang at 26%, Jordan Matthews at 24%, somebody else at 7%. So, Caleb, not only is Ethan Davis on this list, we're taking out Nico, okay? Not only is Ethan Davis my pick for having the biggest impact this year, He's also the guy that I would say out of all the redshirt freshmen, and quite frankly, taking out Nico, out of most of I would probably have him top 5 as far as talent-wise among underclassmen. I think that highly of him based off what I've been told.
Ethan Davis, you're talking about specifically, right?
Ethan Davis specifically, underclassmen, no Nico. I would have to really look at the roster, but I'm thinking he would be top 5. And I'm including sophomores, redshirt freshmen, and freshmen in that. I'm saying as far as a high-end player, I think he's maybe even top 3 now that I think about it among the underclassmen. Because you got to remember, and not counting Nico, you got Pierce has jumped out of that. He's now a junior. So, I mean, and then you have Arian Carter, which will be a redshirt sophomore, if I'm not correct. So those are some of the more talented guys that I mentioned. So I would have Arian Carter in there since I think technically he is an underclassman. But I'm so glad to have this COVID. This is the last year we have to deal with COVID and count up years. Did you know that?
Oh, you're right. That is. It's been so confusing, hasn't it? It has been a total. But hey, let's be honest. This COVID stuff, the extra year of eligibility, nobody's taking advantage of that more than Josh Heupel. It's how he's been able to get the most experienced team possible.
It's how he kept this team together right now. And boy, that COVID thing ended up being kind of serious.
Yeah.
He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. Have a fantastic day, everyone. We want to thank T. Scott Jones for joining us. We join you weekdays. For those wondering, Jimmy Himes will be back with us next week. We look forward to that. John Adams as well. Working in a lot of vacations here. We're excited about some new additions to the program. And keep Jacob Warren and your thoughts as he's up trying to make the team for the Pats. And we certainly hope he does so. And I've been texting him back and forth. It's been kind of cool. Caleb, I mean, can you imagine walking on that NFL field for the first time, no matter whether or not you make the team, but what that emotions must be like?
Oh, that's got to be incredible. I agree. And, nobody would be more deserving of it than Jacob Warren. And, Dave, he fits the Patriot way. I mean, a tight end who may not be as heralded, but does everything right, understands offenses, understands playbooks. If Gerard Mayo is keeping the Patriot way, he could fit it. And it depends on, as something Grave talks about, the film study someone does. And I guess I do have to do some film study back at the house, given what you guys are accusing me of.
Poor Caleb. He doesn't do any of that. You can go to the restroom and not be videoed in Caleb's house. At least I hope so, because I'm not.
The only thing is my baby cannot sleep in private in my house. I have a nanette overlooking him to make sure he doesn't suffocate. Call me an invader of privacy by doing that.
Oh, yeah. So we start calling you an invader of privacy for looking out for your young son's life. No, we're not going to do that. Hit like and subscribe so you get the updates. That's why we ask you to hit subscribe. And don't forget, we want you to join Hooker's Corner. So tell us all about, Caleb, the Rick Terry's Great Garmin Challenge. And I'll go ahead and share the QR code. For those that haven't been listening, you have to join Hooker's Corner, but you can be a free member and you have to be subscribed. And then once we hit 8,000 subscribers, Caleb, we're going to do what?
Rick Terry will provide a watch worth a Garmin watch worth over $1,000 to be given away to a lucky listener of Off the Hook Sports once we reach 8,000 subscribers. Viewers, listeners, readers, and fans are all welcome to enter by joining Hooker's Corner. Free members welcome. And subscribing to Off the Hook Sports YouTube channel, also free. Enter Rick's Great Garmin Challenge today for your chance to win a Garmin watch from Rick Terry's Jewelry Design. Again, that's Rick's Great 8 Garmin Challenge.
It's easy to say. Rick's Great 8 Garmin Challenge. It takes a little bit of practice. And if you do want to join as a paid member of Hooker's Corner, you get the recruiting info and you get an opportunity to win this helmet, a John Henderson autographed helmet, one of the greatest balls in the history of Tennessee football.
And if you want to join my bathroom only fans, just give me a call.
Ooh, I don't. He's Caleb Calhoun. I'm Dave Hooker. This has been a presentation. What?